It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we like to hear newer arrivals constantly tell us we are not in our home country. Thanks, Einstein. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Welcome back to another edition of Talk Funny. I'm Mark Bailey. We're here with Mike Miller.
Hello.
I mentioned in an earlier podcast that I'm not a fan of these reaction videos on YouTube. Have you seen these, or do you like
I've
these?
I've seen a few of them. There's a few of them that are, I don't know, there's all sorts of them. There's ones where people react to other videos. There's the ones where people eat strange things.
There's two girls in one cup. That was one that started it, and people are watching it.
That was a little weird. I don't know. Was that YouTube that was on, or was that you? Well, maybe we shouldn't go down that path.
That was not that venue. That's not the one. I think that's what started. Is you didn't see the two girls one cup video, but you saw people going, "Oh yeah," reacting.
Okay.
That's putrid. That's horrible. But now it's come to like kids react when they hear Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen the posts. I think
I'm going to go ahead and miss this one. I really don't care what a 7-year-old thinks about Led Zeppelin. You can imagine they'll go, "Who's that?"
Have they done any kids react to ISIS beheading videos or anything like that?
Kids react to Mark's act. Why is he so mad?
Why does he hate his wife so much?
Well, first the earth cooled, and then
it annoys me too.
The word, you're not allowed to call a woman bossy anymore. And now they're bossier than ever. Oh, my God. I'm a comic. I'll use whatever word I want. Thank you for your non-permission. I'm not going to ask permission.
We need to have a card. They say card carrying whatever. Comedians need to have a card where you can just whip it out. So you say something that someone finds offensive, and you just whip this card out of your wallet, and you just say, "Oh yeah, well I'm a comedian, so I have a right to say that. I'm a card carrying comedian."
We won't get into politics, but they'll say about certain politicians, "Well, you took him out of context, and you have to take him literally and not
figuratively, and not literally."
Yeah. So whatever, if you got offended, it's because you took him literally and not figuratively. And then you're taking Hamas, you're taking them literally, not figuratively. They said that Israel has no right to exist, but you're just taking that
when
literally.
They said death from above, they meant manna from heaven. I don't know.
Yeah. You're taking this literally, and so it's, like you said, should have a T-shirt that says, "I'm a comic." So
yeah.
People take you literally, and now it's the Twitterverse. Well, this guy made a joke about blah, blah, blah. I think the key operative word would be joke.
Yeah.
He was standing in front of a sign that said comedy night. Does that help you?
Well, yeah. And I mean, the weird thing about a lot of these things is that the actual night of the whatever was said, there was no reaction, in some of these cases. And then it's, weeks later, months later, someone finds a tweet or something or a video online, and it blows up into this massive thing. It's really bizarre how it happens. I don't know what the process is, and you go viral, but in a really bad way, right?
I was talking to Steve about this before. I was watching Lisa Lampanelli. She's kind of a fat version of Don Rickles, basically. She offends everyone.
But she's kind of given up on that.
She has
recently.
And I was looking at a 2008 video of her. This is only 11 years ago now. And I'm watching this. No, that would get her fired. She said that now. She's joking about black people, gay people, Italians. She gets everybody. And she's an equal opportunity offender. But you can't do that now. We had one of our venues where they said, your jokes are kind of misogynistic. And if they were funny, misogynist jokes, that'd be one thing. So your complaint is that my misogynist joke, I need to work more on those.
Well, and to be fair, that was just one guy's opinion.
But that's the
guy. Those jokes got laughs.
They did. Of course they did. But that's the guy who said, when I met him that night, did you have a good time? Yeah. How was it? Oh, everybody was great. And then 2 weeks later, if you could go ahead and not do those misogynist jokes, that'd be great.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vocal Fry.
But we kind of feel, you know what? We're not giving the money back. So just do the show, get the money, and then don't read the reviews.
I think it's a lot of it has to do with the context. Everything is context, right? And as people say, you're taking me out of context. And sometimes you can read the context. That's still screwed up, But the thing is that the context of a comedy club and the relationship between the audience and the performer changes a lot of things. People are willing to hear things in a comedy club and laugh at things in a comedy club that they wouldn't feel comfortable laughing at if it was in front of their boss or in front of their wife or in front of whoever,
Right.
So, I mean, there is a kind of, you have to give a little bit of leeway in that sense, I think.
I don't know if it's BuzzFeed or some of these online sites, they'll say, just so we don't take this out of context, they played like the whole 40-minute speech of some politician, and then the politician will still come out and say, you took my speech out of context.
Right.
What?
You took it out of the context of my entire life?
My entire life. You have to play back my entire life. And then start with, okay, Mrs. Miller. Okay, all right. I think you're dilating. Okay, you're dilating. Okay, deep breaths. So don't take Mike Miller out of context. This is right before he's born, and let's follow him all the way up to that joke about overwork.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you take him out of context.
I think, the thing we got to realize about politicians and comedians and everybody who speaks for a living is that people, when they're talking on stage, they're trying to figure out their own opinions. They're trying to figure out what they actually think about something, and that sometimes means going down a dead end or saying something stupid. And that's how you're figuring out what would you actually believe in. So we can't blame people for making mistakes like that. I mean, if it's a consistent pattern, if someone is saying something again and again and again that's offensive, or not offensive, I shouldn't say offensive because that's a lame word, but I mean, if they're saying something like we should kill all these people, or we should do this, or these people are horrible, or whatever, if they can say that consistently, yeah, that's what they believe. But we have to give people the ability to make mistakes.
If Mike gets up and says, blah, 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 I think there's too many Canadians, we should kill more Canadians. Something you should know about Mike, he's Canadian. Yeah. So maybe he doesn't believe that. Maybe that's why it's funny, because he's Canadian, you know? Maybe, I do the Jewish joke and all the yentas, and something you should know is I grew up with a lot of yentas.
Right.
So I'm kind of touchy about it. It's not like, Mel Gibson is telling the joke on stage, Boy, what is the bad luck that Mel Gibson had an interaction with a cop, an L.A. cop? I mean, how many L.A. cops do you think would be Jewish? And he gets the one Jew on L.A. police force.
It's almost like he found the narrative he was looking for, like they run the world, and I was pulled over by one, and he got me into trouble.
What are the odds? The only cop that pulled me over was a Jew. I told you it was the Jews.
Yeah. He made a war movie. Everybody loves him again.
Oh yeah,
all's forgiven.
He's
still crazy. But
speaking of edgy, I think I'll do this here. People think we actually don't edit our comedy, but we do. And I think this is one joke. And I was doing my joke about ex-girlfriends, my whole bit from the show a couple months ago. I'm going to do that in New York next time because it worked as well as I hoped. It was pretty good, and it got pretty good laughs. I got the most laughs out of those. My girlfriend that I broke up with her because this reason or that reason. And this is one that you might not even be able to tell, and definitely not in New York, but you might not know this, Mike. I had a Muslim girlfriend. We didn't agree on everything, and I broke up with her because her prophet was a pedophile.
Oh, God.
That's the only reason.
Oh, dear. Oh, God.
Hello, Patreon.
I mean...
No, but...
Hell, jeez.
So that's an example where... But you took me out of context. No, we heard the setup. We heard what you said.
But that joke itself reveals the context of the times, the people, that era when that was a common thing.
It's the joke where she got into a lot of trouble with it. It was Sarah Silverman. And her joke, which I think is a perfect example of appropriate humor that angers the communities, and she's actually on their side. Do you remember her joke where she said she wanted to get out of jury duty?
Oh, I think.
And so she said,
remember that.
She said, I could pretend that I'm a racist bigot and say, I hate jinx. But if I do that, then they might make me do it anyway to teach me a lesson.
Yeah.
And she goes, so I wrote, I love chinks.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And then they had the president of the Asian American Society in L.A., who's Japanese, by the way.
Yeah.
Taking her to task on Bill Maher's old politically incorrect show. Her and Bill Maher are trying to explain a joke, which is the hardest thing and the worst thing you don't ever want to do that. And she was saying, look, do you think I really hate Chinese people? He goes, well, if you love Chinese people, you wouldn't say chink. And she goes, that's the whole point. That's why it's funny. And Bill Maher's like, seriously, you don't get why that's funny? He goes, we know your button, and you're saying you have a sign above your button that says, don't push this button.
Right.
And she pushed it.
But you know what, actually, I think some of these people have a sign above them that says, please push this button, because that's what gets them in the spotlight. It's like that guy, there's this guy, what is it called? The Catholic League of America or something, and there's this guy, what's his name, William Donahue, who's always criticizing movies and popular culture and whatever, and you think that it's some Vatican, department or something. It's one guy. That's his job. That's what he does. It's a one-man operation. And people put him on the news all the time, and they say, oh, he must be representing what all Catholics think on this issue, right?
Last time I checked, when you want to go see a movie, don't you have to buy a ticket and stand in line?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it voluntary? What they used to say in the 80s, which I still agree with, people were saying, well, after 10 p.m., the programming on TV, back then it was just the networks, just a little cable, no Netflix, just the networks. You'd have, moms calling in and saying, after 10 p.m., the programming on your network is inappropriate for an 8-year-old. And the question is, that's right. Why is your 8-year-old watching TV after 10 p.m.?
Yeah, exactly.
When I went to the Playboy Club, there was some behavior there, and there was like some drug use that is very inappropriate for a toddler. You're right, it is inappropriate for a toddler. That parent should go to jail for letting a toddler at the Playboy Mansion,
Well, they did have drinks with Bill Cosby, so maybe they've suffered enough.
They didn't remember a lot of it, but we're going to cut this off and continue on the next podcast. And this has been Mark Bailey with Mike Miller, and this is Talk Funny. Thanks for listening.